You probably think you understand medieval warfare. You've seen savage battles in movies, read about them in books, maybe even studied them in school. You think you know what true horror looks like. But today, you're about to realize how far from the truth that really is. Welcome to History Madness, the channel where we pull back the curtain on history's darkest and most disturbing stories. In this episode, we're diving deep into the Crusader raids of the 13th century. Raids that weren't just battles, but carefully planned campaigns of terror that reshaped entire civilizations. Let's begin with a chilling discovery. In Lebanon, archaeologists unearthed two mass graves containing 25 Crusader skeletons from the 1200s. Each body told a story of violence: stab wounds, sword cuts, crushed bones. Most of these injuries were on the back, proving these men weren't fighting face to face. They were being hunted down while fleeing. Even worse, the injuries revealed that many were executed after the fighting ended. Deep cuts across the neck, strikes from behind. This wasn't war. It was calculated slaughter. And here's the terrifying part. This wasn't unusual. For Crusader forces, hunting down fleeing civilians and executing prisoners was standard practice. The real power of the Crusader raids wasn't only in the bloodshed, it was in the fear that followed them. Imagine living in a city where a single rumor that Crusaders were on the way was enough to cause entire populations to abandon their homes. Whole towns would empty out before the enemy even arrived. Not because resistance was impossible, but because the reputation of Crusader cruelty was so overwhelming. Their method was brutally simple: attack without warning, kill as many civilians as possible, leave a few survivors to spread the story, then vanish before defenders could organize. This wasn't random brutality. It was a strategy, psychological warfare, centuries before the term even existed. Muslim historians of the time describe panic spreading faster than the armies themselves. Villages collapsed economically. Trade routes died. Farmers abandoned their fields. Sometimes the rumor of a raid caused as much damage as the raid itself. Siege warfare revealed even more cruelty. When direct assault failed, Crusader leaders ordered rotting animal carcasses and even human corpses to be hurled into enemy strongholds. This wasn't improvisation. It was standard practice. The goal was to spread disease, break morale, and force surrender by making life inside the fortress unbearable. Imagine being trapped behind walls, watching plague spread among your family and neighbors, knowing the enemy outside had made it happen. That was the reality. But here's something even darker. Archaeological and written records reveal that these raids didn't just brutalize civilians. They transformed the Crusaders themselves. These weren't noble knights guided by honor. They were men systematically trained for violence, armed with religious justification for cruelty. The chronicler Guiber wrote about returning Crusaders with chilling words. Because they had seen Jerusalem and its sacred relics, they believed they could commit any crime without consequence. Think about that for a moment. For them, pilgrimage itself became a license for unlimited brutality. This was not a temporary madness brought on by war. It was a deep moral shift. Violence became holy duty. Looting became divine reward. Rape and torture were reframed as God's punishment. Every atrocity was justified, and worse, it was seen as spiritually beneficial. The Holy Land paid the price. Wells were poisoned, fields burned, holy places desecrated. Community leaders were singled out for public executions designed to crush morale. The goal wasn't just to win battles. It was to destroy the very possibility of normal life. Survivors lived in permanent fear. Trade collapsed. Agriculture shrank. Families scattered just to avoid becoming targets. The terror spread itself. Survivors of raids became unwilling messengers, carrying stories of cruelty to distant lands. A single gruesome massacre could frighten 10 cities without the Crusaders lifting another sword. Muslim military manuals from the era give us a haunting glimpse into just how effective these methods were. These weren't ordinary strategy guides. They were survival manuals teaching commanders how to withstand psychological warfare that went far beyond traditional combat. Crusader raids were so extreme that they forced entire military cultures to rethink the very meaning of warfare. And archaeology keeps adding to the evidence. Mass graves show clear signs of systematic torture. Burned villages reveal deliberate targeting of civilians. Weapons were modified not for quick kills, but to inflict greater suffering. Every discovery reinforces the same conclusion. These raids were not random outbreaks of brutality. They were carefully designed campaigns of terror. The men who carried them out were no longer ordinary soldiers. They had been reshaped into something medieval society had never seen before. Human beings conditioned to commit atrocities with no hesitation, because they believed it was God's will. And here's what should truly disturb us. This was just the beginning. The Crusader raids of the 13th century represent one of the earliest and most terrifying examples of organized psychological warfare. Their impact reshaped entire civilizations, leaving scars that lasted for generations. So the next time you watch a film showing Crusader knights as noble warriors on holy quests, remember the truth. Remember the mass graves. Remember the stories of entire towns fleeing in terror. Remember the religious fanaticism that turned men into instruments of cruelty so severe that even their contemporaries were horrified. The Crusader raids were not accidents. They were the logical result of combining military power with religious justification for unlimited violence. This was organized, systematic terrorism carried out with chilling precision. Its legacy reminds us of a dangerous truth. When human beings are convinced their violence serves a divine purpose, there are no limits to the horrors they can commit. If you found this story eye-opening, subscribe to History Madness for more hidden truths and dark lessons from the past. Don't forget to like this video and leave a comment with your thoughts. Your support helps us keep uncovering the side of history too many people still